Solving basic equations. These are the Florida and NCTM math standards. What is an equation? An equation says that two things are equal. It will have an equal sign like this. 3 plus 1 is equal to 2 plus 2. This equation says what is on the left, 3 plus 1, is equal to what is on the right, 2 plus 2, or 4 is equal to 4. And if you think of it like scales, each side has to be equal in order to balance the scales, then that's what we're doing here. The 4 equals the 4, and the scales are balanced. How do we solve an equation that has a variable or an unknown value? Well, let's listen to Rob from Math Antics to find out.
Okay, so if you've got an equation that has an unknown value in it, then the key strategy for solving it is to rearrange the equation until you have the unknown value all by itself on one side of the equal sign and all of the known numbers on the other side of the equal sign. And then you'll know just what the unknown value is.
Okay, let's work on some equations with variables. X is equal to 10 plus 10. So X is equal to 10 plus 10, which is 20. So X is equal to 20. Okay, let's move on to another one. Z minus 3 is equal to 10. Okay, like Rob told us, we need to get the variable, in this case the Z, by itself. And how do we do that? Well, in order to get rid of the 3 on the left side, we need to add a 3. But then to balance things out, we'll have to add a 3 to the other side, to the right side. So we will say Z minus 3 plus 3 is equal to 10. And remember, we have to add the 3 on the other side plus 3. So in this case, the minus 3 and the plus 3, they cancel each other out. So we're left with the Z by itself. And then we say 10 plus 3 is equal to 13. Now, how do we check to see if we're right? Well, let's substitute the 13 in for the Z at the top. So 13 minus 3 is equal to 10. So that checks correctly. Let's go on to another one. Okay, this time to get that X by itself, we have to divide by 3 so that we can isolate the X. So we'll have to divide by 3 on both sides. So we'll divide by 3 on the left side, and to balance it out, we'll divide by 3 on the right side. So 3x divided by 3, the 3's cancel themselves out, and we have the x by itself. And then 30 divided by 3 is 10. So let's check our work. We'll substitute this 10 in for the x. 3 times 10 is equal to 30. That checks correct. Okay, let's move on to one last problem. 4z plus 2 is equal to 30. Okay, we're going to have to do a couple things here, a couple operations to get that z by itself. First, let's get the 2 over to the right-hand side. So we'll subtract 2 from each side. So that leaves us with 4z by itself, and 30 minus 2 is equal to 28. Okay, now what do we need to do? We need to divide both sides by 4. So we'll divide by 4, divide by 4. 4z divided by 4, we cancel out those 4's and we have z by itself. 28 divided by 4 is 7. Okay, let's check our work. Let's substitute this 7 in for the z at the top. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is equal to 30. That checks correct. Let's practice what we've just learned. This is the algebra balance scale. Now, this application can only be used in Internet Explorer. It won't work in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, and you must have Java loaded. Okay, 3x plus 1 is equal to 2x plus 2. A little more difficult than the problems we've recently done, but we'll work through it. These blocks, the 1 and the x that you see, will represent our equation. So on the left scale, we will put 3 x's to represent our 3x. and then the 1 to represent the 1 on the left side of our equation. Then on the right side of the scale, we will put 2x blocks to represent the 2x on the right side of our equation, and 2 1s to represent the 2 on the right side. So we have a balanced scale and can move on. Okay, so what do we need to add or subtract from each side? We need to subtract a 1 in order to start to isolate our x. Okay, good. Now, what do we need to add or subtract? Well, let's try subtracting another 1 and see what happens. Oh, that is not correct. So let's subtract 2x. There we go. And our answer is x is equal to 1. Let's go to a new problem. Okay, it's important to note that if you can work the problem out in your head, you cannot go directly to the solution. You must walk through each step of the problem. So, to represent our 2x plus 1 on our balance scales, we will put 2x blocks and 1 block. And on the right side of the scale, we will represent the x plus 4. So 1x and 4 1s. Okay, so I think I put too many 1s. So we'll take that back. It's now balanced out and we can continue. So what do we need to add or subtract from both sides to start isolating our x's? We will subtract the 1. Okay, now let's subtract an x. And that's our answer. X is equal to 3. Let's play Kiwi's equation game to solve a word problem. Lisa scored 3 times as many points as Julia. Together they scored 32 points. How many points did Lisa score? Well, first we need to find out what our knowns are. We know that together the total points was 32. So we will say 32. Okay, and then we know Lisa scored 3 times as many as Julia. So she's 3 times Julia's points. But we don't know what Julia's points are. It's an unknown value. So we'll call that unknown value a variable j. And then we can say Lisa's is 3j because we know that she scored 3 times as many as Julia. Okay, now we also know that Julia's points plus Lisa's points is equal to 32. So j plus 3j is equal to 32. Or we can say 4j, because j plus 3j is 4j, is equal to 32. Okay, now what do we do? Okay, well, we need to isolate that j. So we need to divide 4 on both sides. So we've got 4j divided by 4 is equal to 32 divided by 4. So 4j divided by 4 leaves only a j. And 32 divided by 4 is equal to 8. So j is equal to 8. So we know Julia scored 8 points. But how many did Lisa score? Well, we know Lisa's was 3j. So in order to find out how many Lisa scored, we have to substitute that 8 in for j. So Lisa's points is 3j, or 3 times 8, which is equal to 24. Is that correct?
Alright, so I'm here to introduce our online game for you. Up at the top you can see these tabs. There's a help tab to, help students understand simple things if the teacher wasn't clear enough already for them. If you haven't noticed already, it's kind of like a Connect 4 game, but I will explain that in a second. For the teacher, over here there's this tab. It shows you all the standards aligned. Right here you can find NCTM, Common Core, very close to Florida State standards. And it even shows you textbooks that it goes along with. And here are a bunch of related resources that you can use along with this game. And here again, just some related resources, whatnot for the learner. But onto the activity. You have a time limit up here. You can set it, less time for the more advanced students, maybe give the struggling students a little bit more time to try and solve the problems. To go along with that, you have the higher difficulty levels that you can give to your more advanced students, and then whole numbers only, for your struggling students that aren't quite grasping, fractions or decimals quite as well as your other students. And even more so along that trend, you can set it just to one-step problems, or you can go like all the way to quadratic problems, bring in the distributive property. I'll just set it down for two-step problems right now and go ahead and start the game. So you go ahead and click ready when you're good to go. 2 is equal to 4x minus 18. You add 18, you get 20. Divide by 4, you get 5. You see on this right side, that's your timer dropping down. And so students can see how long they have to solve the problem. I'll go ahead and answer it. And it said I got correct, so I get to drop a coin onto the board. Once you get 4 in a row, that player wins. There's 2 players, red and black, so I'll go ahead and answer for black. Add 9, you get 10. Divide by 2, you get 5. And so as you can see, it's kind of like a two-sided game, so you can have students work, one-on-one against each other, or even a pair against a pair. Kind of get that competition going. And for the teacher real quick, you can go to show score, and it'll tell you, player red got 1 out of 1 right 100%, player black got 1 out of 1 right 100%. So you can see how your students are doing on this game kind of as a quick formative assessment. Really the only big struggle that this game has, or setback that this game has, is, as you can see, it has the equation up here, but not really any room for you to solve it. So students would need to have their own pencil and paper at their side, ready to solve the problem. Again, the teacher may want to consider the time it takes to copy down the problem on paper and maybe set a little bit of a higher time limit, but it's something that you can adjust on the fly with how your students are dealing with it. But that, in short, is the entirety of our online game. It's a real quick way to just have students compete against each other and learn math at the same time.
Here are some key considerations for new teachers and current teachers.